Now then, folks, how we doing? It's James, JT at the movies, and I'm back with you for one of my promised videos. And this is going to be a bit of a roundup of some titles that I've watched recently. And I just thought I'd share my thoughts with you, a few sort of quick fire thoughts on a few titles, as there's not any particular movie that I wanted to give its own review this month. So I thought we'd just share some thoughts on, like I say, a few that I've watched over the last month. The first one that I wanted to talk to you about was a film that I mentioned in my DVD and Blu-ray update, and it's a film that really left an impression on me. It's a film called The Body. It stars Antonio Banderas, and he plays a priest called Matt Gutierrez, who's previously been in the military, and he's also a bit of an archaeologist as well. So, you know, he's a sort of a well-rounded character there. But what really struck me about this film was that it's about the discovery of a body in Jerusalem, and they believe that it's the body of Christ. And so you can imagine, as I said before, the sort of the fallout that brings. And the discovery's made by an archaeologist there called I forget the character's name now, but she's played by Olivia Williams, and her and Antonio Banderas' character are obviously completely sort of opposing in views. He's a priest and he's there to disprove that it's Christ. She's the archaeologist and sort of the scientist, really, and she's, you know, basically trying to prove that it is. And then there's obviously all the other various sort of different faiths, sort of, you know, basically meaning that, you know, if it's proved that it's this, then it disproves that, and it sort of becomes a bit of almost a political thriller as well as a religious thriller, with, like, say, having this sort of Indiana Jones, sort of Lara Croft action adventure treasure hunting sort of undertone to it. Now, it feels and plays like a TV movie, and I don't know whether it was a TV movie or not. I've never actually heard of it until I came across it in a charity shop, and as it often does with my pickups, it was, you know, the cast and then reading the blurb on the back that sold me of it. But I just thought that the premise was really interesting, and even if the execution wasn't perfect, I still didn't think it was a waste of a couple of hours, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I would actually recommend watching it. So if you find it on, you know, Prime Video, or you've got the DVD or whatever, I'd definitely worth, you know, giving it a go. Like I say, that the concept was interesting, if the execution missed ever so slightly. The next one that I wanted to talk about that I watched recently was Disney's Sword in the Stone. I'd not watched this for the longest time, not since I was a little kid. And then Laura got really nostalgic for it and decided that she wanted to watch it the other week. And so we often, if we can, try and have a movie night once a week. And normally it's only, you know, a film goes on while we have a bit of tea or whatever, maybe two at a push if we're lucky. But this one night we decided that we were going to watch Sword in the Stone, and I'd essentially forgotten it, and it was great going back into it with a completely fresh pair of eyes, and I had such a fun time with it. You know, the animation was so charming, and you know, the sort of the voice acting was obviously very of its time, very early 60s, but the characters were great, and it's one thing that really struck me about the film, and I don't know if it's ever occurred to anybody else or whatever, but I wonder if this was anything that formed J.K. Rowling's inspiration for Harry Potter. Because, I mean, if you look at the Merlin character in that, he's Dumbledore, isn't he? And, you know, you look at the, you know, little Arthur, little Wart, he's basically just Harry Potter, isn't he? And, you know, he's living with, you know, sort of an adoptive family that don't really want him there, but, you know, sort of just keeping him there for reasons, sort of thing. And, you know, and then they finally sort of come good in the end because they realise they've had to, sort of thing. I just found so many parallels to Harry Potter in the, you know, in the Disney's telling of the King Arthur legend. And as well, it ended up, I suppose, being quite poignant in a way, didn't it? The appointing of a new monarch in the film, given what's happened this week, and obviously may the Queen rest in peace and long live the King. But yeah, I really enjoyed revisiting that little film. It was you know, just a really nice sort of palate cleanser. You know, from sort of normally I'm watching thrillers and horrors and dramas and, you know, sort of things with a more adult theme to them. So it was really nice just to sit back and watch a silly kids film, and yeah, really enjoyed that. Just recently on Friday night, myself and Laura were afforded a bit of free time, and so we decided we'd have a movie night, and cheated a little bit. We ended up on Netflix rather than coming up here and grabbing a disc. I know, boo. Physical media collector, how dare I use streaming, eh? I know we all do. But yeah, I got to choose this week. She chose the Sword in the Stone the last time we had, so she said, oh, you choose this time. So we watched one, which was a film called I Came By, and I think it's only just dropped on Netflix in the last couple of weeks, and it stars Hugh Bonneville, Kelly MacDonald, and George, I think it's George Mackay, is it? The chap that plays the lead in the fantastic 1917. Anyway, and I don't want to spoil it too much because folk might go and watch it, but it was all right. Again, it was another one of these where the execution could have been better, but the concept was great, and there were a few sort of reveals along the way in the film that sort of could have been handled a bit better, and they were a bit just sort of like, oh, all right, okay, so that's what you're doing, is it? And, almost a bit like sort of characters would say something in exposition that really should have been like a boom in your face moment, but then like characters are just going, oh, well, I did that. Right, okay. Yeah, I suppose without spoiling it, is that the basic plot of it is George Mackay, and I can't remember the chap's name. I'm so sorry, but his friend, who I suppose ends up in a sense being one of the co-leads of the film. Basically, they're graffiti artists, but they only target sort of the sort of people with a secret that needs sort of outing to society, if you like, sort of corrupt businessmen and the like sort of thing, and they tag these people's homes with the slogan "I Came By," and it's supposed to alert the media and whatever else, and sort of almost, I suppose, a form of somewhat sort of like vigilantism, isn't it? Anyway, they start checking out this retired judge played by Hugh Bonneville, and start to wonder, as is he just a regular old judge, or does he have a secret? But Hugh Bonneville's character is really well connected with the police, and he's like the commissioner of the police is his best mate, and so when the police do come and try and investigate claims that have been made against him, he just sort of name drops the commissioner and the police drop it, and it's sort of a bit of a back and forth, and watching the George Mackay's character fall more and more into despair as he thinks that whatever's going on with Hugh Bonneville is going on and sort of been unnoticed and unpunished. But he can't prove it and whatever else. And then, like I say, the story just sort of builds and builds from there. And it was a really interesting little story, and we had a lot of fun with it. But it was a sort of what I'd call a solid 6 out of 10 movie. Easy watching, and didn't take too much to think about. But it kept you gripped enough, sort of thing. And I'd say it's worth watching. I won't spoil what happens because it's so brand new. But I do think there were, like I say, a couple of moments where things should have been like a boom in your face rather than a sort of an exposition drop, if you like. And then the last thing that I watched recently that I wanted to talk about, and just sort of share my enjoyment for, really more than anything else, was I rewatched after Laura went to bed after we watched that film. I wasn't feeling tired, and I popped on Martin Scorsese's The Departed. Do you know, this is one of my favourite films of all time. It's the first time I ever watched it, which was probably about, 5 or 6 years ago. I came to the party quite late on this one. It went straight in my top 10 literally after the first viewing. I was just sat there like open-mouthed after watching it. Just couldn't believe how good the film was. I mean, it's obviously, as you often get with Scorsese, it's beautifully shot, and there's some fantastic camera angles, and the use of popular music, in lieu of, or in in tandem with a musical score is absolutely fantastic. Like the use of the Rolling Stones, sort of, Give Me Shelter, or Roger Waters playing the live version of Comfortably Numb with Van Morrison in this film. Absolutely superb. And then obviously you've got Matt Damon playing Sullivan, and you've got DiCaprio playing Billy Costigan, and they're sort of playing it off against each other. And then you've got Jack Nicholson in there as Costello, and You know, you've got Queenan, the police captain, played by the fantastic Martin Sheen, and Vera Farmiga's in there, and Mark Wahlberg. It really is a sort of a who's who of an ensemble cast. And it's one of the rare times, I would say, that a remake lives up to the original. It's a remake of the Asian film, in the Infernal Affairs. Sorry, apologies. But yeah, I absolutely love it, and it doesn't matter how many times I watch this film, the twists and the turns, and you know, are they going to catch out that Billy's the police mole, and are they going to catch out that Sullivan is the rat for the mob, and it's just so great, and like even the scene where DiCaprio is chasing Matt Damon through the rainy streets after following him to the theatre for the catch up with Costello. It's still edge of the seat stuff, and the raids, and how it all plays out, and the bit at the end, you know, in the building that's under construction, where it's sort of like you think that DiCaprio's won, and you think that it's going to be sort of the traditional happy ending of the film, and then bam, he gets his head blown off, and it's, where the bloody hell did that come from, sort of thing. And even though I know it's coming, it's still, you know, it's still a wow moment. And I just love that the way the film ends so abruptly with Mark Wahlberg, you know, and it's like everybody sort of, you know, that needed to get what they deserved, got what they deserved, but there's obviously the casualties along the way, which I suppose makes it almost true to life, rather than being some sort of, you know, almost fairy tale idealistic version of a heroic story. But yeah, it's just absolutely superb, is that film. And I was having a debate with my friend Ruben to say that I would go so far as to say that of the last sort of 25 years, that it's Scorsese's best of the last 25 years, you know, sort of millennium onwards, if you like, sort of thing. I would die on that hill, I think. You know, Wolf of Wall Street, great, and Shutter Island's a great film as well. But yeah, I think that one's, I think where he's sort of, you know, in his recent career, where he's peaked. You know, obviously nothing's touching, you know, his earlier works, you know, not at all. But in terms of his modern career, absolutely superb film. So there we are, folks. There's just a handful of things that I've been watching recently, and my thoughts. You'll have to let me know your thoughts on this video, and whether or not this format works or not. Like I say, very much inspired by Dan over at Dan's Man Cave. And I really agreed with his sentiments that we all talk, you know, so much about collecting, which is what we do and what we love to do, and you know what bonds us as a community. But it's rare that we do these videos where we actually just sit and talk, you know, even if it's just for a moment or two, about what we thought about the films as well. So you'll have to let me know. I'm planning on doing some sort of movie review or some sort of roundup like this, maybe once a month. So let me know if it works, or any feedback, all that sort of stuff. Get involved in the comments down below. Please drop the video a thumbs up as well if you enjoyed it. It lets me and YouTube know that it's a video that you want to see, and obviously it does all that algorithm stuff going on in the background as well. If you haven't already subscribed and you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing. My goal at the moment is to try and get the channel up to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. And if we get there, I think I'm going to do a giveaway as well, which I'll announce properly in the coming weeks as well. But I'd really like to get the channel up to 500 subscribers, and would of course like to keep anybody that comes and views the channel around as well. Obviously helps the channel to grow and lets me get to know you a bit better. So if you feel up to it, please think about hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to keep you around. Above all else, folks, as I always say, take care of yourselves. It's been nice to have a natter, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon. Cheers, bye.